Attention gamers, do you ever feel like you are the best player in every single lobby, rocking KDAs worth listing on your resume, able to euthanize a poor Yasuo main with just a few pellets? Constantly so fed that when you get caught out by a ball gargling hover whore you can just stand there and right click her because of how ahead you are. Constantly able to push up while your team is applying negative amounts of pressure on the map, knowing you'll get ganked like an illegal immigrant during the Trump administration, and even though the proverbial ice in this case captures your little Mexican support, you can politely ask this ye where all his health went, and then as the other two chase you display the bot lane Grand Canyon present in your games before just having to deal with one last win shitter, and despite getting wrapped up in his queef twister, you pull off 1v3s with ease, leaving even your deported supports in awe. But despite feeling like you are smurfing in your own elo, you somehow manage to lose these games, always more fed than a diabetes speedrunner but constantly staring at defeat more than someone with a foot fetish. If you can relate, then this video is for you. Let's start a relatable example with some introductions. First there was my mid laner, the man who never shied away from guessing your card, but unfortunately the only ward in this man's life was the psych ward he was born into after his alcoholic mother physically attacked her anger management counselor. My jungler was a dog, who was playing Naafiri. And if you looked at her browser cache, her last Google search was what Naafiri abilities do. Also inflicted with the map awareness of a Pop-Tart. Then we have my top laner. Being a sibling to a Yasuo should tell you what you need to know, but this Yone, he whose head is baloney, shit the bed almost as much as he shit wind, and his lifelong search for his missing brain cells was going to make this harder to win than a game of horse against Stephen Curry. I of course was on the closeted bisexual at the Piltover Sheriff's Department, and then there was my support, a once young Milio who aged poorly from his time on the Rift. Clearly ungroomed and appearing full of worry about his testicular health, he's in need of Manscaped. The sponsor of today's video is its National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, and seeing how testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer in my demographic, they are helping spread the word while providing the best grooming product on the market. Introducing the TCS Special Edition Lawn Mower 5 and the Special Edition Boxers 2.0 that look dank and have a cheeky little jewel pouch for your future baby incubators, all as a part of the Ball Hero bundle. Get your hands on the limited time sleek purple design cordless waterproof skin safe trimmer with updated blades that provide longer, wider, rounded teeth for the best shave possible. Manscaped is donating 50 grand to the cancer awareness cause, and you can visit manscaped.com/TCS to learn more or even donate to a great cause yourself, so thank them for the sponsor. Check out my link below for 20% off this bundle and free shipping, and see how the Manscaped movement can transform you into a healthy, sexy Chad. Now, as I mentioned, I was on the mall cop with a freshly manscaped flamboyant lily pad skinned Milio by my side against counting Dracula and some bitch with her floating metapod. I already showed that first blood went to the man who may guess cards correctly but never quite guessed when he would be getting ganked. And then my top laner decided to play that game where he sees just how little health he can display while staying in lane, while completely forgetting he hired a clown to perform at his funeral. With that said, I still had both high hopes and some level of stable dopamine flowing through my veins, as the first encounter with their team for me was decent. Sure, their support threw some Lazarus juice up their mid laner's asshole, which let him live to see another 2 seconds, but then my mid arrived at the crime scene, and while he may have been late, he brought all the party tricks, which to his credit were executed so well that they did knock them dead. Then I showed off the dankness of having an empowered recall, as I wouldn't get. For the sake of this story, this made it personal between me and this Renata. You glad I didn't say banana? As you can see, the next time she thought she was being cheeky by tethering me and requesting I kiss my support, I made her eat more shrapnel than a cannon's asshole. And in hindsight, I should have teabagged my alt key as a gamble, but I figured Jennifer Lopez here would make a better door than a window if I did, so I tried to just pepper him down instead. Meanwhile, the windshitter up top called brain cell attendance this morning, and all he heard was crickets, so he got snipped like his dad should have been before pegging his mom. And then I'm not even gonna show this Naafiri cleaning it up because you know she didn't. I, on the other hand, was forcing others to face my problems like I do IRL before walking up to whiff the alley before committing to the oop in a play that didn't earn me a paycheck, all while their team's floating Aladdin was all like, surprise, I'd like to murder you. But unfortunately for him, my support didn't skip my Manscaped sponsored segment and thus had big healthy balls to roll at him to keep me safe. Eventually, like 7 eternities after receiving the gank, we get a counter gank in the form of a TP to our tower, and I'm thinking that was a waste and a half, but he came out of that stone's taint like a bat out of hell and held up the yellow card as a warning to their space dog breeder that if he didn't leave us alone he would learn the hard way what it feels like to get shot. This for whatever reason prompted a lane swap, and if you were to ask any coherent level 10 mid laner how they feel about a solo level 8 ADC coming to their lane, they would probably say they have a boner, but unfortunately this guy is as blind as he is hard when it comes to paying the fuck attention to the map. So he is forced to dance for his life like a drug addicted stripper, and while at a point it looked like there just might be some light at the end of this tunnel, you forget he was blind, so he wouldn't have been able to see it anyways. Meanwhile, this literal airhead thinks the new strategy to going 0-5 in lane is to cosplay a jungler and gank his own lane in what ends in just about the most one-sided solo bolo this side of the rift has seen 13 minutes into a game in years. I head mid because rumor has it there's going to be a surprise showing of the sequel to Now You See Me, featuring enough laughing gas to almost cause you to kill your own teammates, but Manscaped Bon Boy with his shields and heals to the rescue once again as we come out on top. Then the Space AIDS distributor thinks that I'm just going to let him walk up and give me Samsung Galaxy herpes without retaliating by kneeling down and firing an ace up his a-hole. At this point Miss Stefani is already checking out some real estate inside our zip code to rent out and perhaps remodel the area with slightly less inhibitors decorating the space, but not to fear the Yone who fed her, who makes sure that no wind shitters will be present in her remodeled design either, was here. I decide I'm going to chase a bit because I figure this Gwen is probably worth like 65,000 gold shut down at this point after being spoon-fed, but also I figured her ghost just expired and I have fully evolved symbiotic souls, so surely she won't be able to outrun me, but I was more wrong than a husband in an argument when it came to that logical thought, so she got away. And so just to keep the record updated, it looks like there may have been a minor top gap present considering my 0-5 buffoon up there had 1/3 the farm of their top, but remember this game is about finding ways to win, so I promise you there's a happy ending. Dragon was up and our jungler was adamant on being there after a quick errand which originally was going to be to Pound Town with a 4-whore, but due to a lack of proper planning she ended up having to make a stop at Fountain first. Meanwhile, if you gave this Yone a map he'd probably think it was Bonnie Blue's business plan. As you can see, he immediately put himself in a situation where he could get fucked by 5 different people at once. This started causing some shitty situations where swollen scuttle crabs were nose tackling our Nexus turrets and easy kills on their Jhin were ruined by him huffing copium, which weakened me to the point where a simple haircut could kill me. We started learning the pattern that Yone, he whose head is baloney, would just stay top attracting enemies like a pile of shit attracts fleas, and we figured if we went up there with nets we could catch a bunch of them. And I attended because I was personally very invested in learning if bear traps could work on stealth bombing clowns, and my findings were conclusive that they can. Turns out whatever my twisted fate was building somehow made him do a negative amount of damage, and unfortunately for him this meant that 3 Venus Corgis were going to have their way with him. Chuckles the annoying shitbag was trying to go full-blown Shiv Shank redemption on me, but that shit wasn't going to fly, and Renata ulting his clown sure as shit wasn't going to save him, as I then took a step back and regrouped. Planning my next move when I saw that metapod breeding bitch who interrupted my back early in the game, and now would be the time for my revenge. Turns out their Gwen wasn't worth the 6,500 gold shutdown I hypothesized earlier, but she was worth a thick grand, and then my support failed to remember if it was stop, drop and then roll or a different order. We finally got to leave our base for a few minutes, and the newfound freedom had my jungler doing things like dashing into pink warded shrubs, which was bad for him, better for me, but it did still result in me having to dodge a wave of the traitor tear gas just so I could have a clean conscience when reflecting on why my support died. But this is also the moment when I realized just how much money my team's windshitter gave in tips to his personal barber all game. By the time I got out of black and white timeout they had almost made their Nexus their personal pay pig, so I had to rush out to make sure there was a stop to this, and after seeing David Blaine arrive to the party to do the 4 total damage that he was barely capable to get the kill, I huffed some copium thinking if I can single-handedly ace the rest of the team, maybe we can turn this around.
Presence of a king.
Unfortunately, I think this further motivated Yone into thinking he could look his blue-haired barber in the eyes and say he doesn't want to look like a useless wind shitter anymore, and when he wasn't dying to her, my jungler was working overtime to make sure she was still getting paid. And all this chaos meant that their dipshit undeserving ADC could just walk up and tap on my nexus, and while the bot gap in me wasn't going to let any version of that happen, the reality was that this was another example of a game where I popped off, yet couldn't win. And with that example out of the way, if you are someone that this happens to, here is your solution. Lock in Pengu Garen top, the most broken bullshit champ ever, and then absolutely refuse to leave top lane under any circumstance, no matter what. Here is a short montage of this in action. Hope you enjoyed this super educational game-changing guide on how to win games in League of Legends. Demacia.